Hello again, everyone. I'm Tim, and by now, I'm sure you know I'm a retired police detective sergeant. Now, I've been commenting on unlawful and false arrests now for a while, and what really gets to me is the number of arrests and the cost to the individuals that are arrested, the arrogance and the egos that some officers have, and the fake charges that are sometimes conjured up. And don't forget about the cost of these illegal arrests to the taxpayers, which I'll talk about in a minute. I know something has to change. I have a meeting with my state representative coming up to propose this law that I have in South Carolina, and I'll let you know how that goes. But if anyone would like this information to propose it in their own state, I'll gladly leave an email address. Now, let's get to it. Those whom have been illegally or falsely arrested usually have no recourse for compensation for their costs, which might be bail costs, loss of wages, legal fees, etc. Right now, except to hire a lawyer and file a state or federal lawsuit, usually costing thousands of dollars. Many times lawyers will not take a case at no cost if they don't see a bucket of gold at the end. Accordingly, the states, cities, towns where these officers work don't have any recourse either, except to hire lawyers to defend the lawsuits, and it costing many more thousands of dollars. Or they pass it on to an insurance company that will do the same, but that usually increases the insurance cost to the city or town or state. In South Carolina, and I'm not picking on South Carolina, I'm sure every state has the same problems. It just happens to be where I live and where I have done my research. In fiscal year 2024 alone, $9 million in settlements and $3.3 million in attorney fees was paid out from the Insurance Reserve Fund, all tied to officer screw-ups. In fiscal year 2024, false arrest claims paid out hit $3.87 million. That's millions siphoned from roads, schools, or more badges, increased salaries, straight to courtroom cash grabs, and all paid for by South Carolina residents. Now let's go back to the second quarter of 2022. This is only for 3 months. False arrests in this state alone cost $2.25 million across 28 claims. That averages $80,454 a pop and dragged on for an average 3 years for a resolution to each claim. And some claims have festered up to 9 years. You tell me, is there any incentive for these lawyers to resolve these claims quickly? Or is the incentive to string them out for years? Remember, the lawyers representing the state insurance pool get paid up to $175 an hour. And the lawyers representing the plaintiff, well, they usually get paid extra for every phone call, every email, every meeting that it takes to get compensation for their client. I have called this system in the past, which I believe it is, lawyer welfare. Undoubtedly, there were many other false arrests that never filed a lawsuit. And remember, the officers that caused these false arrests are usually not held liable for a cent. Is this because the officers don't know the laws? Don't care about the laws? If they didn't know the laws and are paid to know the law, why is that and who is responsible? If they didn't care about the laws, again, who is responsible? The answer to both of those is the department they work for. You and me, the public, can't go into a court and claim we didn't know the law. How can police officers claim this when they are paid to know the law? I believe they can't have it both ways. Now, the law that I am proposing will quickly compensate anyone without going to court who is falsely or illegally arrested through no fault of their own and without probable cause. This will be an administrative procedure, not a judicial one, enabling a fast result without hiring a lawyer if you wish. although reasonable legal fees and costs would probably be covered. I also believe a lot of these problems would be resolved with better training of our officers. As of right now, officers in South Carolina only get 8 weeks of in-service training at the academy, with another 4 weeks of training at their department. But that's another story, and we'll address that later. I believe this new law will be a possible remedy for many of these false arrests that will hold the departments and officers responsible and accountable for knowing the law and acting within the law. Now, this proposed law has many parts to it. Now, as you can see, there are 10 sections to this Compensation Act or law, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go over the 10 sections real quick and hit the high points, give you an idea what's in this before we do it fully on another podcast. Section 1 gives benefits to cities, counties, and states. And this is reduced legal costs, fewer lawsuits, improved public trust, enhanced law enforcement accountability, economic efficiency, and risk mitigation. Section 2 is benefits to law enforcement officers. Now, some people are going to cry out and say there shouldn't be any benefit to law enforcement officers on a law that is about false arrest compensation. Well, let me tell you something. Even with that being what it is, there are benefits. And we have to give benefits to every side in this, or else it won't get passed by the legislature. There has to be benefits to the cities and towns and counties, benefits to law enforcement officers, and benefits to the plaintiffs. So Section 2, the benefits to law enforcement officers, is going to be enhanced training opportunities, reduced personal liability exposure, clear guidelines for accountability, improved public perception, support for good faith actions, a cap on personal contributions, and there is going to be contributions by the officers, reduction of long-term stress from civil lawsuits. The benefits to the plaintiffs, these are the people that have been arrested. There's going to be a lawsuit prevention, a risk mitigation, economic efficiency, faster payments, reduced legal cost, and enhanced law enforcement accountability. Now, the purpose of this act or law, whatever you want to call it, is a one-page, or excuse me, a one line, and I'm going to read it to you. This act establishes a compensation framework for individuals subjected to false arrest, ensuring automatic redress for violations of personal liberty due to unlawful or unjustified detention by law enforcement or other authorities acting under the color of law without going to court. On Section 5, we have the definition of false arrest, and it has to be clearly defined. Not all bad arrests are actually a false arrest. So for the purposes of this act, a false arrest is defined as the unlawful restraint or detention of an individual by a person acting under color of legal authority without sufficient legal justification, resulting in a deprivation of liberty. A false arrest under this law occurs when one or more of the following circumstances. Number 1, no charges filed. Number 2, charges dropped by the prosecutor. Number 3, charges dismissed by a judge. Number 4, lack of probable cause. Number 5, violation of procedural rights. Number 6, mistaken identity. Number 7, unlawful use of authority. And number 8, malicious intent. That pretty much covers it. Number 6, eligibility for compensation. To be eligible for compensation, an individual must demonstrate they were subject to a false arrest as defined in Section 4. The arrest resulted in a measurable deprivation of liberty, and the claim is filed within 90 days from the date of release or dismissal of the charge, which that date can actually be expanded or extended due to incapacity. Section 7 covers monetary compensation and a review process and appeals. Section 8 is exclusions. Compensation will not be awarded if the individual was arrested for a separate valid charge. The arrest was lawful at the time but later deemed erroneous. The individual knowingly provided false information leading to their arrest. Section 9 is access to documentation and video evidence. Now, this law is going to give you a right to access, at no cost, all documents and video evidence related to their arrest. There's going to be a process for the access. I'm sure there'll be some redactions for privacy. There'll be non-compliance penalties for the agency or department that fails to give the information within a certain amount of time. And there will be a requirement for the preservation of evidence. Section 10, implementation. This is interesting. The act shall be enforced by, and there's going to be a state agency that'll do it, the funding for the compensation. The first $5,000 or part thereof is to be paid by the law enforcement agency. In addition, there will be other awards that shall be paid by the officer. And there will be other awards for any supervisor who is present. And there will be a waiver of litigation rights. So, I think it's pretty comprehensive and pretty thorough. The one thing that you might be asking a question about is qualified immunity. Now, qualified immunity applies to civil lawsuits in federal or state courts where the plaintiffs seek damages against the officers. This act, though, however, operates through an administrative process, not a judicial one. So it's already been through court, and the courts have stated in Hudson v. United States that officers can be fined or penalized through administrative and not judicial penalties. So the qualified immunity only applies to judicial penalties. So there we have it, and I'm hoping this will go through. I'm sure there'll be some changes to it, but we'll see how it goes. So stay with me for the next podcast where I'll be diving into it. I would love it if everyone would give me their take on it. Let me know what you think is good and where you think it might come up short. As I make the podcast for this proposed law, I will add the URLs to each podcast so you can follow. So, see you in the next podcast. Thanks.